Hello, it's Ashton Lewis.
And I'm Daphne Lynn.
And you are listening to the
NDE World Podcast.
Welcome to the NDE World Podcast. I am your host, Ashton Lewis. In the studio with me, I have my lovely assistant, my lovely hostess, Miss Daphne Lynn. Hello, Miss Daphne Lynn.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. I'm very good. I'm excited about today's episode. We have a really good surprise for everyone. A really wonderful soul, very knowledgeable young lady that just full of knowledge. I don't know where to even start, and without even doing her any justice. You know, we're just gonna have to jump into the actual interview and things like that to really hear.
Yes.
But I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to really sharing this information with everybody.
Yes, us as well.
Welcome to the NDE World Podcast, everyone. Don't forget to go to the website at nde.world for more information on who we are and what we do. Again, that is
NDE.world.
Awesome. Well, without further ado, let's jump into this, Daphne. Today's special interview as a lady by the name of Anna Elmore. And you can find a lot of her actual interviews and podcasts and videos and things like that online. And we actually had the privilege of being able to do an interview with her and really be able to, get some knowledge out of that head of hers. And it's just it's amazing. We'd probably have to have like 100 podcasts just to be able to start scratching the surface of her knowledge.
Yes.
So we're really just scraping the surface here. Let me put that up front. When you really see what this woman's just her experience and her spirituality and things like that, you can tell she's focused a lot of her time and energy in the area of spirituality. So we're going to just kind of touch base on some of these specialties that she does and that she has and that she's experienced. And again, like I said, we're barely scratching the surface, but we were honored and privileged to be able to have her come in and share some information with us. So
it was a blessing, most definitely.
So without further ado, let's jump into the interview.
Let's do it.
All right, and we are rolling. Well, I'll tell you what, before we get started, let me, on behalf of the NDE World Podcast, welcome you and thank you so much for your time and your information. And, we, like I said, we're so looking forward to this and sharing this with the listeners. So thank you for taking your time to share that with us, Anna. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It is my pleasure to be able to do this. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, Daphne has shared some information with me here, and like I said, we've watched several of your videos, and we have some questions and stuff. We'd like to maybe just kind of share stuff with you, maybe ask a thing or two, and you can just share things with us. But what I'd like to do is just to kind of set the stage. From my understanding, you've got look at this resume. So much experience in so many different areas, like hypnotherapist, Reiki master. Am I saying it Reiki? What's the proper
Reiki.
tomato? What's the on the? Is it Reiki or Reiki? What is the proper on that?
I pronounce it Reiki.
Reiki.
But I'm in Texas, so maybe that's not the original pronunciation.
That's okay. Well, we're from Mississippi, and I've always called it Reiki too. So we'll call it Reiki just to go by with that. Okay, so Reiki master. Okay, so and we'll talk about that a little bit in a moment. Spiritual counselor. I love this. Wellness coach. Transformational breath work. Fascinating. Guided meditations and so much more. You've got your hands full, girl. You've got a lot going on. How do you pull all this off?
Well, they're all really just tools in my tool belt. I wear many hats, but they kind of all fall under one.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah. And everything that I've done, in this life as well as in other lives, that has prepared me for what I'm doing in this current, in every eternal now moments, right? So, it started out with just being a stay-at-home mom, and living on a farm and taking care of rescue foster animals.
Aww. Okay.
And so I used to do energy work on them, and that was before I got into like becoming certified in anything. I I thought that I needed that. And then I realized that it didn't, that I'm still the same. It didn't improve or lessen my abilities just to
Yeah.
have that piece of paper, you know?
Right.
Wow.
It's still you, and you still have the power and the ability to tap into
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
Right.
that's right. And, it's interesting experiences. I think that they are just basically like permission slips, that we give ourselves
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
each other.
Okay, okay. So we
Yeah.
have all these different tools to work with. Now
Hmm.
you've had several. Let's say we're taking these tools and we're working in all different areas. From
Hmm.
yourself, you've said you've had experience in like multiple near death experiences, past
Yeah.
and parallel lives, um, out of body experiences, astral travel, lucid dreaming. I mean, psychedelics. So now there's something that Daphne and I was talking about, and she's really fascinated with the phenomenon, and we do cover that a lot on this episode. On this podcast. But something about your past and parallel lives. If you don't mind, let me ask you something that, and you can kind of help clarify my mind on something here, Anna. Is you know, when you I'm ready to hear your experiences. If you don't mind, we'd love to hear some of those as well.
Hmm.
So is it really, because I've heard from different sides? Okay, are we really going back in time and experiencing quote unquote past lives, or could it be that we are experiencing parallel lives in other dimensions at the same time in the eternal now? That's what's got me that's kind of what I'm thinking, but I don't really know because I've heard both sides. So
Sure.
maybe we can kind of open up with something like that, maybe kind of explaining that, and then your
Hmm.
background in that and your experience, because I've heard you've been all kind of places. So if you don't mind, maybe you could just take over and have at
Sure.
it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be happy to share my perspective on reincarnation and the nature of time. So,
Beautiful.
my understanding is that everything is now. There's only the eternal now. And in the physical is where we experience time linearly. But
Hmm.
when we step out of space time, there is everything is parallel. And so you can think of it as like books or movies on a shelf, and the characters or the actors can dive in and immerse themselves in any time in history from that eternal now moment,
Oh,
right?
okay.
And so and basically we're all every individual lifetime as well as individual in you know, every lifetime like that we relate to, they are all different life streams of consciousness. And so my current experience as Anna has memories of my life stream has memories from other planets, lives on other planets, as well as several past lives from this linear perspective in this planet. And so my the one thing that make it a little bit confusing is like, are my extraterrestrial lives past or future, right? And
Right.
so when I dive deeper into that in meditation and connecting with with myself in those realms, I'm able to relate, to see the relationship between that existence and this existence. And that life, that experience as Anna on another planet, for example, where I did not look human, but I still had like five appendages: the head, legs, arms,
Wow. Okay. Okay.
but I was like a lion being,
Wow.
a feline being, where I also knew the soul that embodied, that incarnated as Jesus here on earth.
Right.
But in that other place, which was we know as the constellation of Lyra, and it's sun was Vega or around that area. The soul that is known as Jesus, his name is actually Sananda Kumara, and
Right.
he is one of the original separations from source, like the
Wow.
original. Yeah, and there were, to my knowledge, there are four, and this is in Hindu tradition, but I've have conscious memory of meeting two.
Oh, okay,
Wow.
okay.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that particular, the current life stream that I'm experiencing right now as Anna has multiple memories, and some of those other life streams are different. Like they have different backgrounds, even though, it's like a river, like a branch as well, like a tree. It's hard to describe
I
it.
totally
I
understand.
can show it to you. I can, draw it for you. But basically, right now we are all like flowers, like leaves,
Okay.
like fruit. And it's only in this moment that we are existing, that this consciousness is aware of itself, but it is very limited. When you step outside of this physical reality, it is, not dismissing the importance of this current experience, but when you expand your awareness, you can become aware of other space-times, other realities, because everything is you. Everything is a reflection of you and also contained inside of a higher version of yourself.
Well said. Well
Yeah, it's
said.
very well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the oneness, that oneness that I've come to learn in my older years, but everything is connected and everything is one. It is pretty much what you're saying as well.
Yes, absolutely. It is like an ocean of consciousness, and we are all like drops in that ocean of consciousness. And so we, we can not necessarily contain that within ourselves, but we can merge with it, right? And depending on, what level of consciousness you're at, you can can have the experience of total loss of ego, or you can keep the ego and still be merged within all of that oneness, that interconnectedness.
I like how you said that. Do you mind maybe breaking that down just a little bit? Because that's something we've been talking a lot about. As far as, from my understanding, a lot of people who have, say like near-death experiences, for example, a lot that will go on the other side and come back. I sense, and I've always said that they kind of destroy that ego gets destroyed in a sense, because they come back, they seem like they're a lot more humble, a lot more softer, a lot more, I don't know, a lot more deeper appreciation, more loving.
More loving,
It's,
yeah.
people who's had these experiences and things like that. So how does the ego tie in with that, and how do you relate ego to self? And I'm from different schools. I've heard that you have to destroy the ego, okay? But then again, I've heard, well, no, you've got to have the ego, but it has to be in balance with the one. So where do we go? What is your idea or input on that, Anna?
Sure. Yeah. So my definition of ego is just the illusion of separation.
Okay, okay, beautiful.
And so Anna, she has her own character, her own perspective, her own identity, right?
Right,
But I am not, Anna is not absolute. Anna is not, Anna is finite,
okay,
right?
okay,
And so the most absolute state is infinite. It is eternal. It is all that is. It is not finite. And so when I experienced total loss of ego, I still had an ego. I still existed, but not as Anna. I
Okay.
was all that is.
Wow.
Okay. See, that resonates. It makes a whole lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful.
I am. I am. There's nothing that I am not. And that is an absolute truth.
Wow.
That oneness that we were speaking of earlier.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Now I have a question. You had mentioned earlier about in one of your past or parallel lives that
Mm-hmm.
you had met the being known as Jesus, the
Yes.
Sunanda Kumara. When you had that encounter, did they impart any wisdom to you that you can share with us?
Sure. So that was a lifetime where we pretty much lived in harmony, and we were a civilization that had not lost its memory, its connection with the divine. We knew who we were, right? We also were more empathic. We were more clairsentient, more clairvoyant. We still had our innate abilities, which, I guess we were in a less fallen state, you may say, but we accepted and we recognized this avatar who came to bless us, right? And so we were able to receive that blessing. He did not have to die for us, although he would have if he had to sacrifice himself, right? It is in certain planes of existence, like in the physical realm, which is, some say more dense, more solid, I guess, where everything must be something must be sacrificed in order for something else to survive, right?
Yes.
To exist. And that is, consumption. That is something that is true in the physical realm for everything, from the smallest, tiniest bacteria to the greatest, biggest black hole, right?
Yeah, good point.
And so he on Earth, he was willing to, he knew that the plan was that he would have to sacrifice himself, just because here our lack of knowledge, our lack of receptivity demanded that, right? And he was willing to do that, even if it was to just save one of us, just one.
Gotcha.
Wow.
Right? Mm-hmm.
That makes sense, yeah. This shows the different vibration, too, like where we're at and then the higher beings, it's just, there's such a difference, I'm guessing, in the different vibration levels for them to have to come down and do something like that,
Right.
That's right. Yeah, and so this is one of the reasons. This is basically what we call Earth now. It is very challenging because the illusion of separation is so great, because there's so many distractions, because the gravity here is not just physical, it's not physics, it's in everything. Everything holds more weight when you have such a limited amount of time, and when you are such a, a temporary vessel, I like to say kind of like a not necessarily weak, but just it's just a not very
functioning on all cylinders, or yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah. If I may, when did all this separation happen, Anna? I mean, we have history stories, we've got religious stories, we've got spiritual stories, we've got all kind of stories. But what happened? Do you have any sense of what happened, or any insight of, if we all were one, how did we get so far into this separateness and this self, if that makes any sense?
Sure. So what I remember as the first, I guess, immaculate conception, which is the same as the first sin, which sin, to me, the definition of sin is to be without God.
Okay.
Just to be without.
Okay.
Without love, without consciousness. Right?
Gotcha.
And so that original immaculate conception was the Big Bang, the original Big Bang.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
And that was the first experience of separation from self. And the cause of that was the thought, God's original thought, which was, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
In order for that to be experienced, it was, an instant, like the moment that thought occurred, there was the Big Bang. And it was, due to the fact that just that thought implies that there's anything other than oneself.
Yeah.
Right? That's how powerful thought is in the God state.
People underestimate the power of thought.
Yes. And so because of that thought, we experienced the original Big Bang, which was the first separation.
Okay.
And that is how light came into form. That is how the physical plane came into existence. Yeah. From the void, from pure consciousness. Yeah. And so the light is literally the heart of God. Source light is literally the heart of God. It is the divine feminine. Mm-hmm. All of creation is feminine in essence. Every embryo starts off female, right? Mm-hmm. And when I was when I was the void, when I was pure consciousness, I felt very masculine in nature. I don't know how to explain it. But even though, that the void was like the mind and the womb of God, I felt masculine predominantly.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when I burst forth into light, I had this longing. The separation was so heart-wrenching that it was almost unbearable. Like when I came back into form as Anna, I came back into form. This happened over the course of 7 days, by the way. I call it my 7-day samadhi.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Every time I would close my eyes, especially when I would lie down to go to sleep, Anna would cease to exist. The whole universe would cease to exist. I was the void, and in the eternal now moment. And then every time Anna would wake up and basically God would fall asleep again, would go back into the eternal, into the dream of Anna, I would come back into form as particles of light through my heart in like the shape of a torus, which is like a toroidal field. It's kind of like a donut made out of light in motion. Yeah. And the color of that light happened to be like kind of like lime green, like very light golden with the hue of green coming through my heart. So I know that the depiction of all the chakras is accurate.
The heart chakra's green, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it was like a spring green made of light.
Okay. Amazing.
And so as I came into form, it's like I was plugged back into the matrix, and I became aware of everything around me. It's like everything, like my room, materialized around me, the house materialized around the room, everything materialized into my awareness.
Wow.
And so, yeah, and then space-time continued. Right? And so that was my experience of the first separation.
Okay.
But since then, that happened back in 2020, and in January of 2020. And since then, I've had multiple experiences where I come back into form, but I like Anna wakes herself up laughing and giggling in pure bliss.
Wow, isn't that awesome? Have you figured out how you're doing that and where you're going? And I mean, that'd be a really
So
nice trick to know.
my understanding is that is subsequent Big Bangs, like
Yeah,
the universe forms and then is swallowed back up again.
yeah,
Right?
okay,
And at that point at the center, like if you look at a torus in motion, at the very center that is the point of like the 0 point, right?
okay,
Where everything is simultaneously entering and exiting,
okay, gotcha.
uh, whatever plane of existence you're in.
Okay,
And so when when I have that experience of coming back out of that loop, the subsequent Big Bangs are the universe, eternity. You think of eternity, but it really, it never ends. There are multiple sub eternities,
yeah,
each universe is still finite. The multiverse, it just goes on forever in both directions.
and I don't think my little human brain can really process that, but I know on the other side, like what you were saying earlier, when you were able to tap into that matrix or that all-knowing, then
Yeah.
I'm sure it makes sense or it resonates that, hey, it goes on and on and on and on. I mean, I can comprehend the concept of eternity, but when you
Mhm.
really, really think about eternity, I mean, that's really a deep subject, really, for me.
The first thing, before I had that experience of union with the mind of God,
Uh-huh.
I had, like subconscious fear of death, I guess,
Okay.
of of the finite. And then after experiencing that eternity, like I started crying. I actually felt pity, believe it or not,
Yes.
pity for God.
Oh, yes,
Oh,
and I can
wow.
because
understand.
because he can it can never cease to exist.
Wow.
We have that luxury. We actually have the luxury of life and death. God doesn't. He experiences everything vicariously through us. Yes, we are in this physical realm, but the souls that incarnate here are actually very advanced.
Think about that.
Yeah, wow.
Yes.
So all of
And
us are
and
really old souls, you would say, right? In
so
a sense?
you must be a certain level of in your evolution as a soul to even incarnate here because it is so challenging.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
I've always heard that it was very challenging, according to a lot of
Yes.
the other realms and things.
Yeah. It is. It is the reason why we have so many avatars here, so many conscious incarnations, like fully connected and complete, remembered beings who incarnate here is because it is so difficult to we need the help. it is that challenging.
Wow. I have another question too. Your belief system or your spiritual life before your experiences versus after your experiences, how it has shaped or transformed your belief or spiritual life, the difference in the two. Can you share that with us?
Sure. Yeah, so all my life I had out of body experiences. I would lucid dream, I would astral project, I would go, I'd leave my body while I was asleep, and I would go outside, walking through my house. More often than not, for some reason, I'd end up going out through the garage door as a kid instead of the front door.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that's because it's the biggest portal, the garage door, or just because I liked running up the driveway and taking off from there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so I would fly around every night basically, and I would, I remember starting by just hanging out around my neighborhood, over my neighborhood, and then I would end up going into these other realms, higher realms. Sometimes I could not even go by myself. I had to be taken there by a guide, like an angelic being.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I think that many of us do this quite often, especially when we're younger. And so this lasted all my life. I would go to all these places. Honestly, I do believe that the story of Peter Pan is all about astral travel.
Wow.
Different perspective.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I never thought about that.
Yeah, because they go to that star. Neverland is a star.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, and then Peter Pan, he lost his shadow. That's really what Earth is all about. Earth is a shadow realm. We come here, we incarnate here to work on our shadow. So shadow work, my understanding of that is we're all doing it. That's why we're here on this planet.
Okay.
Earth is just a shadow of heaven.
Gotcha.
And so we project part of our consciousness here in these physical vessels to work on our shadow, and the way that we work on our shadow is by observing our thoughts, by learning how to heal ourselves, our physical body, our mental body, our emotional body, our ancestral lineage. Quite often, well, we all pick the ancestral lineage, the family that we incarnate into for several reasons. Some of it is to heal that lineage. Some of it is to actually benefit from certain things that it offers, certain opportunities for experiences that it offers, right? And yeah, we're basically here literally to play in the mud.
Okay.
And to achieve self-mastery through perceived limitation.
Where would, and we get this question a lot, and we see it in a lot of the forums as well, groups and things like that, but where would those fit in who are coming down to learn or to do like what you were saying there, but they just go to the extremes, like the extreme, what people would say the dark side or the evil side, or how does one find sense in all of that in the big picture of things from your perspective?
Okay, so we all choose to play different roles for each other over different lifetimes.
Uh-huh.
And, some people may call it dharma or karma.
Okay.
Dharma is what we choose. Karma is, I guess, like a consequence,
Okay.
like action and reaction,
Yeah, cause and
basically.
effect, yeah.
And so, as I see it, there's multiple levels of that. And there's, personal karma, ancestral karma, familial, country institution, you know, collective karma. There's different levels of karma, right? And so there are beings who come and in order to have certain experiences or overcome certain challenges, or even take on some of that to alleviate other suffering. Those are all reasons that we incarnate, right?
Uh-huh.
And so what is happening now on a personal and planetary level, and this is all about the evolution of consciousness. This is a cycle, and we are coming to the end of a cycle. In It's actually like a spiral, the evolution of consciousness, and actually, that's how consciousness moves through space-time, is in a spiral.
Okay.
In a torus. And so we are coming to the end of an age, and this is something that is well known in many cultures and many religions. It goes by many names, and I like to start off with like the Hindu tradition, because I think it is the oldest and easy for me to understand and explain, because
Sure.
that is kind of what I experienced is it's the end of Kali Yuga, or the age of darkness and destruction, and the beginning of Satya Yuga, which is the age of truth, the golden age, where everybody has their innate abilities back and we all live in harmony. And so in order to get from the age of destruction and darkness and into the golden age, there's going to be a period of chaos, right? It's literally changing frequencies, and like tuning a radio station. It's always most chaotic between stations,
Right.
right? And we're coming to an end of karma, where like everything is coming up to be processed.
Wow.
All trauma, all unprocessed trauma is coming up to be processed. And so that's happening on a personal and a collective level right now. So it's going to get kind of crazy. I think that, there's going to be a separation of experience, a polarity. Everything's going to become more polarized. And until, those who are able to experience unity consciousness, Christ consciousness, will have a very different experience than those who are experiencing the polarity, which is also a reality, a truth, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, and I think that the pandemic, COVID, was a very good example of how people can have very different experiences of reality at the same time in the same place.
Yes. So for the listeners, okay, so you've had so much experience, and you've touched on so many things here. How? I know you do meditation and hypnosis and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you might can share with anyone or any of the listeners out there, if someone wants to be able to start looking more into this spiritual side, or this getting this mental balance, this physical balance, this emotional balance, and things like that. Now I'm a firm believer in GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. I'm very choosy with what I don't even hardly watch TV at all. If it is something, I'm going to pick what I watch. Very picky with what I even read as far as books. I don't watch the news. I'm just very, very careful with what goes into my mind, because I realize the power of negativity and just putting garbage in. GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. So I'm very, very particular about that. So what is your take on that? Like as far as your spiritual walk, or just really getting this other or overall things in balance? Daphne and I were talking earlier. Wouldn't you say that a lot of it is diet, as far as like diet, like mental diet, physical diet, food diet? I mean, where does that play a part? Because I believe that even eating right, being conscious of what goes into the body, I feel it affects things, spiritually, and the things that you take into your senses, and, what you watch and what you spend your time in. I think, would that be fair to say, something like that? What is your take on those different elements, and what can we really share with people as far as where can someone start if they're kind of like starting from scratch and just want to get on the road to all this? What would be your recommendation, from someone like yourself that's had experience?
Sure. So, yeah, diet, like consumption is definitely important, and that is coming from like this focusing, like whatever you focus on, your attention, whatever you watch, whatever you listen to, not just whatever you eat and drink.
Yep.
All of this stuff is you're consuming,
Yep.
right? And so focus is very powerful, and whatever we focus on, we bring into our reality. We magnetize.
Nice.
Focus, if you focus on your thoughts and observe them, that's great. But if you dwell on them, then that creates disease, right? It creates mental disease and, eventually physical disease.
Yeah, it's all
And
linked. Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why PTSD is such a problem, right? Because it's repetitive thought patterns. It's focusing on the past. What I suggest doing, and if there was only one way, there would be only one of us, right? That's the
Right.
paradox. That's the paradox. There is only one of us. But there are many ways to kiss the ground and to go home again. That's a quote by Rumi,
Yeah.
And so there's, one of the fastest way is devotion, is relationship, right?
Nice.
Why do we exist? Why do we exist in the first place? Know thyself, right?
Yeah.
Know that you are not this body temple. Take care of this body temple. You need it while you're here, right?
That's right. That's right.
And the practice, observing your thoughts. The best way to do it is to just be present. Be present with your breath. Know that everything is conscious. Everything is consciousness experiencing itself. God is experiencing itself through you and everything in your awareness. The more love and compassion and fearlessness, the more your awareness and your supernatural powers will increase.
Beautiful.
Right?
Said.
The key to activating all of our innate abilities is love.
That's the key.
That is the key. Yes. And there's, whatever love looks like to you, start with yourself. Focus on yourself, because everything that appears to be outside of ourselves is actually a reflection of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Everything comes through. Everything is a projection of us.
How are you having a lot of these experiences? I'm guessing maybe forms of meditation, when something comes to you, then you just kind of go off in that altar thing, or this is something you're practicing, I'm guessing pretty regular to really be, consistent with it.
So in the beginning, I would say until I was about 18, I would just astral travel all the time. Not even with intention. I would just be really excited. I never really fought it,
Okay.
And then I became a mother and a wife, and for 20 years, almost 20 years, that all just stopped.
Okay.
dead in its tracks because I had other things to focus on.
Understood.
And I also I was married to a narcissist, and I do believe that that type of relationship is very vampirical, and it just drains you of a lot of
Energy.
power,
Yeah.
spiritual force.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. We were
And
talking about that the other day ourselves. Yeah.
hmm and so then there came a time in 2013 where I was brought before one of the Kumars, and some people may know him as an archangel, but I know him as Sanat Kumara. Others know him as maybe Archangel Sandalphon, Metatron. They all
Mm-hmm.
have, different names and different levels of manifestation.
Yeah.
Um, but this being, I received an initiation, and basically he woke me up again.
No way.
More so. Yeah,
Wow.
more so. And he activated me. He basically, it was time for me to step into the role of what I came here for.
Wow.
It was time. And I was shown, after years of being an agnostic, very scientific agnostic, because I was an anthropologist. I was studying other cultures, other religions, only for the sole purpose of it intrigued me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I've said before, I really did believe that it was all a mass delusion. I really did believe that, once we die in this physical realm, that our consciousness just fuses with all that is, and that our physical, it just disappears. Like, that's it, nothing else. If there's anything left of you, it is in the trees that absorb your remains.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
For years I thought that the physical plane was all that really was, and that the astral realm was just in my mind, that it was not as real as the physical realm. But this experience in the astral plane, and a few others as well, was more real than what we call life here, life itself.
Yes. We hear that
And
so
so,
much.
yeah, after that experience, so I was, brought before a group of several thousand people, and we were all gathered there. They were all gathered there, and I was brought to them because we were all being shown future events, right? Like it was in that space out of time, future events that were happening now, this is the timeline that we were on. And so I was shown wildfires all over the world. I was shown human strife in the Middle East, particularly related to Israel. And now Gaza. I didn't know what Gaza was at the time. And then I was also shown destruction, like the planet, not the whole planet, but the surface, like most of life on the planet destroyed. But that kept fading back and forth between like apocalypse and heaven on earth. So at the time, I understood so much just by being in the presence of, everything there is telepathic. You just think something and you know it. You meet someone and you know everything about them. You just by being in each other's presence, you know their past, you know their thoughts, you know the meaning of everything. It's just downloaded, and that all happened in like a second. And then, that happened as I was like touching down, like landing. I could see all of these images on this, whatever technology. It was like a conference table that went as far as the eye could see. There were thousands of other beings there. And I do believe that these other beings are people, light workers, who are here at this time. And you may very well have been there too.
Wow. Yeah.
And yeah, and so I find that when, we get together, we are like keys. We hold keys for each other that help unlock memories and information. And so you may find certain things come to your awareness after we connect.
Isn't that amazing? That's so amazing when you think
Yes.
about it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It is. It's absolutely amazing. It's a beautiful divine orchestration. All of this is amazing. And so as I arrived, shortly after, like just a few breaths later, there was a being who descended, and he materialized as he was descending, and he was dressed all in white, and he was glowing more than everybody else, and he was radiant. And I did not recognize him at the time, but I still, something in me, like every fiber of my being, recognized his authority. And he was absolutely gorgeous, handsome, and also very serious. It's like we were here to do business. We're not here to be lovey-dovey.
And that's something.
Yeah. And so that set, that whole experience, I received an activation, a download, an initiation. After that, my life totally changed. I no longer was prey to narcissism. I had this thirst for knowledge. I read every single metaphysical book I could get my hands on. I became a certified hypnotherapist in the Dolores Cannon method. And I just started having all, it was like my connection was, I was plugged in again, basically.
Yes, very well said. Very well said.
Yeah.
If I may, on the subject, on your hypnosis, getting your certification for that and things. This is something I've wondered. Actually back in I want to say when was it? It's quite a few years back. I had actually got my certification NLP, neuro-linguistic psychology, and part of that we train in some hypnotherapy sessions and things like that. Over the years, I've wondered this, and you would be the perfect person to ask. Let me get your opinion on something here. Okay, now you work in the world of hypnotherapy. You know different inductions and different things and methods to work with different clients, and different questions you can take to different places. Now, would it be fair to say that hypnosis, whether it's guided or whether it's, if you can get good at really self-induction, is that, and would that not be the same thing as what these masters and all these people all over the world have taught as meditation? What really true meditation would be, like really getting into that altered state, and are you going into those meta states, or are you dropping into the delta state, the theta states, or whatever? I don't know. Would it be the same, do you think, a form of hypnosis? Because you're doing something with the mind. How are they linked? So you said they are. Yeah. How would you explain that?
Yeah. Well, basically, we are always in a state of hypnosis.
Right. Right. You're right. Yes.
And and so when we focus on something else, like the brain waves change when we are in a state of relaxation, for example, right? The type of hypnosis that I practice, the hypnagogic state, it happens naturally to everybody at least twice a day. Yeah. It happens right before you wake up and right before you fall asleep.
Gotcha.
And it also happens quite often, like when people are driving and they get someplace, they're just on autopilot and they don't even remember driving there, getting
Yep.
there, you know? So what happens often is that you think you're conscious, you think you're fully present, but 2 hours go by and it feels like 20 minutes,
Right, right.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's basically all, yes, very similar to meditation, but it's all about how deeply relaxed can you get and still be conscious.
True, 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 true. Yes, because you get a little
Hmm.
too far, and next thing you know, you're dozing off. So, so
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, okay. Wow. Yeah, because I've
So,
often wondered
and
about
what you
that.
focus on, focus is all about it, and receptivity, right? So
Yeah.
when you get to a certain state of relaxation, everything that you receive is either from your subconscious or the superconscious.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Because
Hmm.
I love to do meditations. I've done it for years, but starting out, it's so hard just to kind of even hold or get a focused thought, But I've kind of graduated up a little bit. I can kind of focus a little bit more, but usually it takes about 10 or 15 minutes for me to really start calming the monkey mind down, till you start kind of getting down to that quiet, things like that. And Daphne, she does hers as well. We're all different times and all, but, you know, getting back to that oneness and that calmness of mind is where, it's just so it's
Hmm.
so peaceful and so calm, So if I was to, or anyone was able to be able to get into that calm state, is there any way you can take and, would you have to be in that state to do any kind of maybe astral projection, or does that have to maybe tie into certain times, like you said, that morning, just waking up, or that evening going to bed, or how
Yeah,
would
you
that
can
tie
do
in?
it at any time once you know how to like tune into that frequency, what
How to
that
do
feels
it?
like.
Yeah.
Just like it's like a recognizing. It's like the body, the nervous system just recognizes that channel,
Okay.
and you're able to kind of like just hook into that and go, right? And
Nice.
and just go. But honestly, it's just trying to identify and release, let go of anything that's blocking you, that's preventing you from doing what comes naturally.
Okay. Okay.
It's an allowance. It's more an allowance, I think, than it is an effort.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It does, most definitely.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, Now, I have a question relating to. We had talked before or messaged before actually the phone call today, and you had mentioned something about a parallel life or past life that you remembered also on the
Hmm.
sun. Can you tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
sure. Yeah. So, I have a past life here on Earth, and I also have ancestry. Like we are our ancestors. If you want to do a DNA test, many of your past lives have been as your ancestors. And so I have Celtic and Druid ancestry, among others. I'm like a mutt. And
Me
there,
too.
this is just confirmation of a memory that I had. But I researched into their culture and their theology, and they believe that they go in between lives to the sun. That's like the nursery for this solar system.
Okay.
That's where the nursery for the solar system of souls. And that the sun actually is like a planet in itself, just at a much higher frequency, where souls exist in the astral plane. They live there. Entire civilizations live in the sun, just not physical.
Anna, is,
Yes.
is there or could there be a coincidence that sun is soul or solar? Think
There's
about, I mean,
no
solar. I mean,
coincidences.
huh?
There are no coincidences.
Well, there you go. There you go. Yeah, I mean, I've never thought about that. Yeah, I mean, I've heard of the
Mhm.
sun called soul, and
Yeah.
solar, and but I never
Hmm.
put two and two together like soul or the nursery for the souls or the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you
So
were actually able to go there.
so I remember, and my daughter does too. She actually triggered this memory in me.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh
Cool.
wow! Isn't that?
She remembers being like a photon, like a ray of sunshine coming down into Earth and going into into a woman, and she was like, "No." Some woman who was sunbathing.
Oh
Wow.
wow! That is
And
amazing.
yeah, and you know, the sun, like that is literally everything is a portal, but the sun, like the more light you hold, the more light you're able to emit. That is literally the love of God in manifest, right? The
Hmm.
radiation, the sun's rays, that is the physical manifestation of the love it has for all creation. And the reason it burns is because it is that intense.
Would it be fair to say, like Jordan Maxwell's always said, that the sun is God's light of the world? It is the light of the world. The sun is God's light of the world. They
Yeah.
it's also like a biblical analogy as well. Like say pertaining, like say Jesus, the
Hmm.
God's the light of the world. I've
Yes,
heard Jordan Maxwell say it's analogy for God's son. The sun is the light of the world. Would that be fair to
that is
say?
right. That is correct. So everything is made out of light, source light,
Uh huh.
right? Everything's made out of photons. However, the sun is the king of the solar system.
Yes, and we know it too.
Wow.
Yes,
It knows
that's
it,
right.
and it has the ability to just cook us if it wanted to, but it just shares just the
So,
right amount of love and everything that we need.
yeah,
But that's amazing. That's really fascinating.
glory. It's glory. That's what it
Yeah.
is. It's light. Its radiation is literally glory, and it can destroy you, but you also need it to survive. If it was not there, there would be no life.
Hmm.
Wow. I couldn't even imagine what life would be without it.
Hmm.
And it
Yeah,
makes
there wouldn't
sense.
be.
You
And
know.
so in the non-physical, when you're flying towards the sun or any star, the closer it may seem blind, it is obviously blinding to our physical eyes, but to spiritual eyes, it is very bright, but it doesn't hurt to look at it. And the closer you get, you realize, oh, this isn't just a star, this isn't just a sun, it's a planet.
Hmm.
And Earth itself, in from the lower realms, she glows as well.
Yeah.
She has her own light, just not nearly as bright as the sun.
That's amazing. Everything's alive, huh?
Everything is alive. Everything is conscious.
That's amazing. Well, I tell you
Yeah.
what, we are getting close to, we're right about an hour now. We usually we don't go too much over an hour, hour and a half. We don't want to keep people too much for their time and everything. But I've got something that crossed my mind earlier, if you don't mind. If
Hmm.
you want to go there, let me put the disclaimer in there. You may not, and if you feel okay with it, we'll go there. And if not, that's fine too. You had mentioned earlier about the transitioning, and then we all transition from this life over, and that consciousness is eternal. It just goes on and on.
Yes.
How does that tie in? Okay, and I just got to ask because I get asked a lot. Okay, and I just want to know your perspective on it. How does this tie in with I'm not going to point fingers. The
Hmm.
concepts of heaven, hell, judgment.
Hmm.
Kind of see where I'm going with this. In other words,
Sure.
that's where the afterlife is. Either you have to believe in this and do what I say, or
Hmm.
you're going to get punished and burn in eternal hell forever. Or if you're good, you're going to go to heaven. Whereas you speak so much in harmony, like say like the NDEs and so many different people who do channeling and all these different experiences and OBEs and astral projection and all. That's like, no, we just go on and on.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, or would you care to maybe kind of go on that, and we'll just kind of touch a little base on that before we wrap up, if you don't mind?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my experience of the astral plane is that it is very vast, more vast than the physical plane, and that like the visible light spectrum, right? It's only a teeny tiny portion of the actual light spectrum that goes infinitely in both directions.
Okay.
Okay? And so that is kind of like the physical plane. The astral plane is the entire light spectrum. So heaven is the higher realms of the astral plane.
Okay.
Hell is the lower realms of the astral plane.
Okay.
I have actually been to different levels of both, of all of them.
Okay.
You don't, even, heaven and hell, even those are only temporary.
Okay. That's what I heard.
Yeah. And it is my understanding that hell was created, for it's literally just low vibration, guilt, shame. Anyone there actually believes they deserve it, even if God doesn't think you deserve it.
Okay. Would you say how much would be tied into their own creation, as far as, I've heard that like you can create your hell, for lack of words. So like when they transition over and maybe go to that part of the realm, like you were saying earlier, that astral part of the astral realm, could they be projecting it themselves? Yes. And then, like you said, eventually if they can come to some kind of sense of light or change or something, that they can actually come out of those realms. I don't know if it makes sense or not.
Yeah, we are sovereign beings once we realize that we are sovereign beings. When we become self-realized, we become sovereign. Until then, we need a savior.
Okay.
And everything is a state of mind. Everything is in the mind of God. Everything.
Yeah.
And so Earth is just as real. Slightly less real, actually, than heaven and hell.
That'll get you thinking, won't it? Well, listen, Anna, I hate to leave good company, and I really hate when these podcasts come to an end, But we thank you so much for your time and information, and coming and sharing your knowledge with us. And you've got so much to cover. You can probably do like 20 episodes on all your knowledge, I'm sure. And what I'd like to do, if you don't mind, now, I remember on one of your podcasts, it seems like, I want to say Jeff's, I can't remember, it seems like it was his. You had mentioned that you working on your series, on the Eternal Love of Dream series. Would you mind maybe sharing that with us? I think he said you were like on part 2 or 3 or something. I'd like to maybe get some plugs in for you, if you like, and maybe share with us, maybe if someone wants to, visit your website, maybe your website information or any kind of contact information before we actually close the podcast today.
Sure, yeah. So my Eternal Love of Dream series, I finished the first in the trilogy. It is the God and His Beloved. And basically it is just a book of poetry inspired by Rumi, the Sufi poet and mystic. And it is just my interpretation of my own experiences of the void, of the mind of God, of love, of the light, of the heart of God, of just our relationship with God and consciousness itself, just who we are.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I really had to, I like birthed that. I gave birth to it. It's just something that came out of me. I wrote it more for myself than anyone else, but I did record it in Audible, and you can read it as well. And I find that when people listen to it in a meditative state, that it's also activating. It's something that people can embody within themselves.
Yeah.
And they can have an experience as well.
Yeah. Do you have any kind of links to that or something? Or is it from on your
It's
website?
on Amazon. Yeah, you can just find it on Amazon. Look for Eternal Love of Dream, God and His Beloved, or maybe look for my name, the author,
Okay.
and I think you can find it that way.
Okay. Okay.
And I think it's free if you have Kindle. I mean, you don't actually have to have a Kindle, you just have the app, you know?
Yeah. And would be under the author Anna Elmore?
Yes,
Okay. It's
hmm
Elmore.
that's correct.
Perfect.
ANNA.
ANNA Elmore. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to go ahead and check that out, Daphne, as soon as
Yes,
we
most definitely.
as soon as we wrap up. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, so
Yeah.
definitely keep us posted or we'll be looking out for it definitely when the other ones are coming out, as well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And then you can access me through my email, elmore.anna@gmail.com, or through my website if you're looking for services at ascendwithanna.com.
Okay.
Awesome.
Beautiful. That's .com you said, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
So,
Daphne, any closing words? I'll say yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Any words of wisdom you would love to share with us and
Hey,
our
that's my
listeners?
question. No, go ahead. Go ahead. What kind of words of
Wow.
wisdom can you share with this baby before we, just to share with the listeners that you'd like to live with us?
Yeah, we are in a time of great transformation. Rejoice and be glad. Do
Awesome.
Awesome.
be fearless, just be compassionate, be kind, and follow your joy to the best of your ability. That is your purpose.
Yeah. And have no fear, right?
Yeah, we are just pretending to be mortal.
I like
We
that.
we never die.
You
Yes.
don't mind if I adopt that, do you?
Feel free.
I love that. We are pretending to be mortal.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we're here to experience experiences for that divine essence. So
hmm We're
we just
here. We're here, to overcome souls that come to Earth. Not all souls come to Earth. We're kind of crazy for doing that. That's what they think.
That makes me feel good.
But souls that come to Earth tend to shine brighter in the afterlife.
Really?
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, in between lives, we come here. It is literally a spiritual gym. It's a boot camp. You
Yes.
sign up, and you're stuck here till your time is done.
Exit point, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, Miss Anna, thank you so much for your time and your lovely stories, baby. So much. We appreciate you for coming onto the NDE World Podcast and just sharing your information with us. You're an amazing soul. We love you so much, and thank you so much for sharing your love and your time and your energy with us and our listeners. Thank you so much.
My
Yes, thank
my
you.
pleasure, and thank you for what you do, sharing this with the world and just following your joy. Thank you so much.
No worries,
Yes.
no worries. Well, we'd love to have you again sometime, anytime in the future if you ever want to get together. I know you're a busy person, you got a lot going on, so just keep that in mind. And Daphne's good with the Facebook stuff, so she does all that kind of stuff, so she can keep in touch with everyone. But we appreciate you so much, love, and you have an awesome evening. And thank you so much again. Okay,
Yes,
we
thank
really
you.
appreciate you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. My pleasure. Have a good day.
You as well, Anna.
Thank you. Take care. Okay.
You too.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
And thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
And there you have it, the lovely Miss Anna Elmore. What do you think about that, Daphne? Is this not incredible or what?
Yes, most definitely. I'm blown away.
Me
I mean,
too.
she's recalling all these things and taken into these realms and shown such wonderful
Meeting all these really cool entities
wisdom.
and
Yes,
beings.
yes. She has a wealth of knowledge. I mean, it is just amazing. The things that she was describing was so reminding me of the conversations with God books that I have read. I mean, it just all ties in, even like with some of the Destiny and Journey of Souls books. I mean, it's that harmony that is throughout the NDEs, the OBEs, the knowledge that is gained from it because it is from that direct source.
Yeah, there is that synchronicity for sure.
Yes, I mean, it is just amazing. I absolutely loved hearing her wisdom. It's like, I had to put my thinking cap on for a lot of it because she's got such a wealth and depth of
Absolutely.
knowledge
Yeah.
that she has to share.
Like I mentioned, it'll take 100 podcasts just to be able to start really getting into
Yes,
what's
most
going on between those
definitely.
ears of hers. Yeah.
Yes,
So,
and I would love to have you back on again, Miss Anna, simply to, we just, like we said, just scratched the surface here, but you do energy work and
a little bit of everything.
hypnotherapy, and there's so much more that we can glean from your knowledge. If you would be willing to come back on again, we would love to have you back on.
Anytime. You are
Yes,
welcome. Yes,
yes.
anytime. So perfect. Well, that is so awesome. Thank you, Anna, so much. We really appreciate you. We send our love and our peace to you, darling, and thank you so much. It was a blessing to be able
Yes,
to
most
have you on
definitely.
the NDE World Podcast, and thank you so much. And thank you all for listening and tuning in. And we love you so much. And again, don't forget to go to Anna's website. And again, that was ascendwithana.com. And also, our website would be the NDE.world for more information on who we are and what we do. And as always, we want you to know that we love you all so much, and may peace be with you all. Until next time.
Y'all let your light shine.
Hello, you beautiful souls. Don't forget to visit the website, nde.world. That is
NDE.world.